Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Chief Petty Officer Elizabeth Miller. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please sit if you wish to do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 Australian men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private William Toft Pullen. William Pullen was born in 1892 to Henry and Catherine Pullen. His father was a farmer on the Lower Clarence River, and he and his siblings grew up in and around Grafton. His mother recorded him as a great athlete. William attended the local public school and became a farmer like his father. William Pullen enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in September 1915. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas in March 1916. While on board the troop ship, he threw a sealed bottle overboard with a message inside, asking the finder to send it to his mother. He was first sent to Egypt, where he continued training before being sent on to France to fight on the Western Front. Shortly after arriving in France, Private Pullen joined the 15th Battalion from the 4th Division Base Depot. At that time, the 15th Battalion was undergoing final intensive period of training and preparation to enter the front line. Less than 2 weeks after joining the 15th Battalion, Private Pullen entered the front line near the French village of Pozières. On the 8th of August 1916, the 15th Battalion attacked German positions between Pozières and Mouquet Farm. Although the battalion was successfully reaching its objectives, battalions on its flanks did not, and the commanding officer was reluctantly compelled to withdraw his men the following day. During the operation, Private Pullen was wounded in the hand by shell fragments, but it was not serious enough to warrant evacuation, and after several days in a rest station, he returned to duty. 2 weeks later, the 15th Battalion again entered the front line near Mouquet Farm. On the night of the 27th of August, Private Pullen was a member of a party ordered to dig a sap from the front line. His company commander, Lieutenant Gray, led his men out in a single file to the area they had to dig. He later recalled Pullen was the man immediately behind him in the line, Gray wrote. We had started the sap down a few feet when the enemy started to shell us, and shortly afterwards, Pullen was struck by pieces of shell. One of Pullen's mates, Sergeant Charlie Black, wrote, I was close at hand when he was killed alongside a lot more brave boys. He was hit in the head and arm and only lived about 5 minutes. There was just time to remove Pullen's personal items from his body, including letters to his mother and his sweetheart, Alama Phyllis. Before the party had to withdraw, William Pullen's body was never recovered. Lieutenant Gray wrote to Pullen's mother, It is very sad, Mrs. Pullen, that you should lose your dear one, but it must be consoling and indeed an honour to know that your son fought so gallantly and gave his life for a noble cause for which we are fighting. During the time your son was in the 15th Battalion, he had won the respect of every officer and men with whom he had come in contact, and all are very sorry to lose him. It was a very noticeable and regrettable feature about the fortunes of war that best men go first, and this case, I am proud to say, was no exception. I'm proud to have the honour of being and fighting with such men as he was. William Pullen was 24 years old. In 1917, Miss Clara Filt of Helena Bay in New Zealand was walking along the shore when she found a glass bottle with a note asking her to send it to Mrs. H. Pullen of Prince Street, Grafton. William Pullen's first message to his mother was also his last. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private William Toft Pullen, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and good evening.